Okay, my name is Albert Pan, and today I'm going to be presenting Life on Earth. Hi, introduction. Genes, how to classify life, history of life, viruses, bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes. Every living being uses genes to make proteins. Genes are the blueprint for doing everything in cells. Adenine bonds with thymine, and guanine binds with cytosine. For some reason, we share 90% of our genes with a or sus profile. How to make proteins with the instructions in the genetic code? DNA gets turned into RNA, which by using the things on top of on the chart, like the codes, like if in the RNA code there's like a C and there's a G and a C and then a U. A U basically uracil, which is to place thymine in RNA. When it does that, it can basically makes it attracts amino acids, which makes a protein. And then this is a tree of life. So every single branch is like a group of organisms. So here is where life, at least as far as we can know, life differs. Oopsies. And then they kind of turned, and then the eubacteria split off, like archaea. And this is a weird thing that happened, okay? Bacteria and archaea. The bacteria ate, the archaea kind of ate the bacteria-ish, and then the bacteria became the mitochondria, the archaea would say became the nucleus. Although I don't understand how that happened because mitochondria aren't in the nucleus. We know this because the mitochondria DNA is very similar to the eubacteria DNA. And also also if you destroy the mitochondria cell, they will not grow back. Eukaryotes, this is how eukaryotes diverge. And then that's how it happened. This is another way you could put a tree of life. But these tiny lines are, I think, those are species. You can see how cool it is. And this is the thousands and thousands and thousands of evolution. It's kind of overwhelming, honestly. This is another one. This is crazy, honestly. How do we classify living organisms? This is one way. This is the modern way we do it. The scientific way is to divide by Carl Linnaeus. And then basically, this is the broadest way. This is the most specific. Like, if you said writing thing, this, for example, if this was like a organism, right? In the kingdom, it would be maybe writing us. I don't know. I make that up. And the species would be, I would say, Droigus bosslus. Basically, this is how we are classified. Instead of Droigus bosslus, this is how we are classified. Our scientific name is Homo sapiens. Okay, I will talk about them all. The domain, we are eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are multicellular organisms. Animals, you pretty much know what animals are. Supposing. You know, basically like flies, people, snakes, fish, leeches, etc. Chordates are basically all animals that have a, well, chordate. It's kind of, right now it's in the disc in our backbone. Kind of hard to explain. Class Mammalia. Mammals, some of them, they have fur, and they also raise their young with milk. Also, those are the two things that only mammals have. You can pretty much get what I'm saying, right? See, all of these, they have a reason, they have a definition. See, that's what I mean. All of them have a definition. And then we got to mammals, order primates. There's not really very easy features to say here, but there were basically all the monkeys, tarsiers, lemurs, humans, apes, and apes are like orangutan, chimpanzee, gorilla, more. And then hominidae is basically humans and orangutans, chimpanzee, bonobo, gorilla, yeah, basically. And all the other, those are living ones, but some of them are like extinct. And I think that most of them all of them live in the jungle. Well, some humans do, but not all of them. Genus Homo. Homo is a genus, and this is basically, it's kind of a family, but it's more specific category. And basically it's a bunch of related species. Our genus Homo has only one current member. Homo sapiens, or Homo sapiens sapiens, if you think that Neanderthals are sapiens. Neanderthals and Denisovans are technically still around. In us, I would say. Neanderthals, the pure-blooded ones, have died out. But well, probably around everyone who doesn't live, any people that don't live in Africa, pretty much about that, have Denisovan or Neanderthal DNA or both. And that is basically why they're technically not a species, and technically why they're not extinct. And species is just basically the main definition. Okay, hear this. The main definition is a population of organisms that are able to breed with them. If they're not eukaryotes, I'm going to mention this is a bit of a hard definition because those other domains, they don't reproduce. Kingdoms of life. There's animals. The first three I'm assuming you know. Their protists are basically all animals, plants, and fungi. That's just, they're all eukaryotes that aren't animals, plants, and fungi, but the other two are eubacteria. Archaea are basically kind of like eukaryotes, but they live in extreme environments, like super cold, no oxygen, too hot, too salty, and among very other extreme environments, although they primarily thrive and live in these environments. Okay, this is an example. Subspecies is kind of a category like species. I'm going to say it's like subspecies are distinct varieties of species that are distinct from each other, but are able to breed. This is like dogs. Like, see, even though they're how they communicate, like woof woof, like how like those two are different. Their dogs aren't very old, like 3,300 years old. Wolves, well, dog descend from wolves. That's why they're called species because they're still able to interbreed wolves, of course, but they're not yet a distinct species. Timeline life on Earth. Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. I'm going to say that before this time, okay, I'm going to mention that the solar system was a complete catastrophe. And the planets didn't exist. The sun still existed, though. Yeah, basically all that. Life began 3.8 billion years. They live at the bottom of the ocean, which we'll think is like a very hostile place where there's not even sunlight, and you're like, and you're probably like, you're thinking that you're going to be like, there. But first living things started there. They weren't like people that have intelligence and could figure out when we had to eat lunch or understand where they came from or fight wars with each other or send spaceships into space or have human rights abuse thingies or all these weird things that exist in the world. Well, all these things humans think are this thing that are normal things in the world probably weren't the normal thing for them. Photosynthesis began. CO2 and nitrogen gases already existed. And the sky was red, literally. It wasn't even blue. Next time, if you want to make a very old, like a 3.8 billion year old painting, you should not paint it blue. You should paint it red. Because at the time, there was all these CO2 nitrogen that was probably killed. But the first living things didn't need oxygen. They needed that. Oxygen forms 2.3 billion. You would think this is a very good thing, but for them, this is a bad thing. For one reason. Oxygen is toxic to all inhabitants of this planet at that time. Really. It was so toxic that life could have been wiped out by that event called the Great Oxidation Event. The bacteria, the culprits, and the criminals were called cyanobacteria and hallucibacteria, which in fact killed a lot of bacteria. It also killed a lot of themselves indirectly. And they barely survived. It's not like that all living things right now are still think that O2 isn't toxic. I mean, some of them think it's poisonous as ever. Like, that's how bad it is for them. But they're like in around like areas like our guts or just deep muds or just anywhere where isn't that toxic as oxygen. Multicellular life forms. Ozone layer. Sea anemones exist, start to appear. Mollusks, dinosaurs. Actually, no, I don't think it was giant. That wasn't that long. Okay, I'm going to say fish are appear. Stegosaurus appears. T-Rex. Mass extinction. A lot of dinosaurs died. Armadillos, giant whales, wolves, apes, hippos, mammoths, lions. Lucy, an Australopithecus, saber-toothed tiger, cattle, humans, civilizations, agriculture, books, science. And fun fact, more than 90% of all species that ever lived are. Yeah. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it is. More than 95% of all species are extinct. That means this is very, very bad. Viruses contain genetic information, either DNA or RNA, and wrapped into these capsules of protein. Sometimes the genome of a virus can become integrated to the DNA of a host, like us, for example, and the DNA of the host can become a molecular fossil. Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is a real worry. At least 8% of you is virus, which you think could possibly kill you, right? Would it? I mean, if it's in our DNA, it could hijack us and it could do all bad things so it don't kill us. But it doesn't, because that was like millions of years ago when they started doing this. Now they're doing it as well. I think in the future they'll be doing it. So now they will have to do it as well. But it doesn't kill us, because if it would, millions of years ago, the human species would have gone extinct. The humans would have gone extinct. Sometimes the genome, the viruses also need the host cells. Of course, they can't just, of course, it's kind of why they're not called living things. I put them in anyway, because you might be interested. There are 7 classes of living viruses. Life cycle of T4 virus, which is class 1. This is simple. It latches onto the cell. It inserts the genome. Well, it uses this enzyme called the lysosome to break into those bacteria. So then the genome destroys the host gene to make proteins, of course. It makes more of itself again. It assembles itself. And it penetrates through the cell wall, effectively killing the bacteria cell. And it goes on to find new hosts and repeat that again and kill it, and then repeat that again and kill it, and 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 repeat that again and kill it. Life cycle of class 5. This is the flu, not just any virus. It approaches a cell. It latches onto a cell. It really gets into the cell. It dismembers itself and it gets into the nucleus. And it makes their own proteins here. This is a genome as well. And then it goes onto the edge of the cell, goes here, and it literally kills the human cell. And then just goes out. This is how bad the flu is. In fact, this flu thing used to kill, this flu thing kills people still. It's not that it doesn't. This is how bad it is. Well, this is how evil the flu is. See? It literally does that. Phage medicine. Some types of viruses are really good, honestly. Unlike this thing called SARS-CoV-2, which if you're not watching this, and then 2023 or what, you'll probably won't know that this SARS-CoV-2 is really bad. We had to wear masks. It killed many people, maybe millions, I would say. in the whole world. It caused a lot of misery and death and a lot of things. There's a lot of people that died. So much people. That's how bad it was. If you're not watching it in the year of 2021 or 2022, you'll probably not know that. Some of these viruses are called phages, or bacterial phages. Bacterial phages really mean bacteria eaters, but you know that T4 virus thing? That's a bacterial phage. This, if you might have thought of this idea that could kill bacteria and they could be a medicine. That's exactly what they did. They were discovered around a century ago-ish. It was used more commonly in the Soviet Union. It's used in Georgia. One type of phage only attacks one type of bacteria or the close relatives. And that T4 attacks enterobacteria. It attacks Escherichia coli or E. coli. Most of the strains of this organism are pretty But there's this one type that has this thing called a Shiga toxin. Causes food poisoning aren't bad things. That's how bad it is. I've ever read for a book that it kills people. FDA has approved phages and used for emergency. Also, you may have not heard about phages because of one thing. Because of infection or a very simple cold. This thing literally probably made these phages. Probably you never heard of it because of that. What do you think it is? Answer. Antibiotics. This is what they do to us. See, these are bacteria. You might think that they're all, but I'm going to have to tell you this. Some of them are good. There's many different types of this, and this shows. Some of them are evil, like, yeah! And they fight with the good bacteria. Some of them are resistant to the antibiotic Enobat. See that both of these are the same type? It's probably a different strain. After antibiotics, it kills the bad and the good. But now there's resistant to bad bacteria. And this can be very bad. Because they can basically kill you very easily. There's no good bacteria. The good bacteria really want to help you. They're in yogurt and all these other things. But these bad ones, these bad guys, not going to spare you. Some of these can be good when they're in like certain areas, but they're bad when they reach other areas. And some of them just go bad when they have a chance. This is what happens when we have phages. Before phage. And then there's the phages. They're coming. Bam! This type is gone. This type is gone. This type is gone. This type is also gotten rid of last time. See, if you take the right cocktail thingy, there's basically a bunch of different types of phages that are mixed together. You can end up with all these good bacteria, which can help your immune system. See? Look at all of them. They're all very good. And this helps for our guts and other places. This actually really helps your health, even though you aren't using this because none of these phage drugs actually are like very good or meet the standards of the Western regulatory things, like the FDA. So why do we want to take in some sort of virus that could kill us maybe or what? And since people don't know a lot about these phages that can be sometimes life-saving, you know. And obviously this works. It works like like 1 century. So why don't we try it out anyway? It's not it will harm you or kill you or what? That's why. What? Enterobacteria phage blend. So this is what we put. It's kind of funny, even though this isn't a bad one, but yes, it's not even a medicine for reasons. Habitat, whole world. Host and symptoms. When exposed to ultraviolet light, it will attack E. coli. History discovered in the 1950s. Fun facts is not used because of medicine, because you have to use ultraviolet light, and also they might not work. When you do it for medicines, you definitely want to get rid of it as fast as possible. This thing probably won't do it as fast as possible. Okay, this one is bad. The cold. It lives everywhere. It only has 9 genes, and it's so old that it's known in ancient Egypt. Well, maybe something that's ancestral related of it, because they mutate fast. Yeah. The circus two-tail virus. This one is a weird one. This is sort of weird lemon one. It's sort of like lemon-shaped virus, right? Like, kind of like a lemon. And then basically grows these 2 tails after they get out of this sort of weird tails outside of, they grow out, right? But they shrink the lemon by 1/3, this lemon thing. And we still don't know, I don't know, no one knows what these weird tails are for. And this is the only virus that has these weird tails that grow outside the host. It's the only virus that actually has this transformation outside the host. It's isolated in Italy, and it also causes cell death. What? Tobacco mosaic. This virus, the oldest known virus, is this weird rod-shaped virus, which is very simple. Basically, some protein straw that just has RNA in it. I don't really. It kind of looks weird though. Diagram here. And this causes tobacco mosaic. It is the late 18th century. This is the first virus that is ever known to people. Well, the first virus that people actually knew was a virus, at least. And it started in virology. And it lives just about everywhere land is, I would say. Bacillus phage 529. It attacks anthrax. This is what it looks like. It looks kind of cool, honestly. Like, and this weird trigger thing is like, bam, bam. It's kind of funny. I don't know what these spines are really for. This kind of looks like a peel to grind, like, you could really use it. It lives in dirt and it lives worldwide. Anthrax is this, you probably don't know how bad this anthrax is. It releases these weird endospores, and if you breathe it, I'm going to be very, very relieved if you actually live. And I'm pretty sure maybe you won't. Name, Staphylococcus phage, Sin 5. it's just sort of kind of like a nanobot, like what you think of a nanobot. It's kind of cool, I would say, right? It lives everywhere in the ocean. It kills cyanobacteria in the ocean. In fact, these marine phages like these kill 25% of the whole bacterial population, 1/4. That means they do a lot of the marine bacteria population. That means they do a lot of genocide. They do a lot of genocide. We're going to admit that. This looks like a very weird machine. I think that they're kind of cool, I would say. We're getting off topic. COVID-19. This is the baddest of them all, or the worst, but they live approximately everywhere. They're class 4 viruses, same as flu. COVID-19 has many variants like alpha, there's beta, there's delta variant, gamma variant as well. Delta. I don't like this delta variant. Like not so long ago, I think, like some time ago, it started becoming like from like 6% in the whole of COVID cases in the whole US to become like 92% in the whole US. Not to mention there's this new thing called Omicron, which came to South Africa and now it's in this country called the US, which is very concerning. And this is why I'm putting it $1 million. This thing kills so many people. And that, as long as I see this picture, I'm really going to be very happy. That's how bad it is. The bacteria, finally. There's E. coli. There's the Adenococcus radiolonsis. It's this bacteria, which is called the world's toughest bacteria. It holds this title because it can withstand radiation and it can withstand other sorts of pressures. Radiation, I'm pretty sure no one will survive, but that thing can. That's how good it is at surviving. There's lactobacillus, which is one of these good bacteria. It's found in yogurt and the Yakult if you drank it before. It tastes great. I would kind of recommend you to try it. The bifidobacteria, which is some sort of Y-shaped bacteria. The anthrax, I told you about this before. This is the spore thing that can kill you. It's very contagious. It costs billions of dollars. It costs like $1 billion to remove these spores from a few buildings, few U.S. government buildings. And this is staphylococcus. This is a common skin infection thingy. It's found in your throat and your skin. It's very, and it can become very, very, it can do a lot of bad things, especially the auris, Staphylococcus auris type. There's like MRSA and a lot of bad things. Archaea. There's types like Priococcus. Priococcus is like very, very, very. It grows best in the most bad, in a temperature which I think that you cannot try. 100 degrees. 100 degrees Celsius. That's how boiling hot it is. Methococcus lives with no oxygen in the bottom of Lake Antarctica. Sulphurobis lives in Yellowstone, the hot springs. And there's a lot of types, which I didn't put up here, but I think I should. Eukaryotes, 1 billion years ago. There's two basic. So, the mitochondria here. There's this thing called there's the Golgi apparatus. And the cytoplasm is sort of like, I would say, fluid in us. And the ribosome is a kind of things structure of like factories to make antibody. The nucleus, mitochondria, is called the powerhouse of the cell in animals because they produce all the energy you can do, like in order to move, stretch out, and yawn, and to go to bed. And these ribosomes produce the antibodies. The nucleus is furry. It holds a lot of the DNA in your body. The mitochondria holds some. The nucleus holds the DNA from both your parents, and the mitochondria holds it from the females, from your mother, and then basically holds like another like opposite copy. And assuming you're a human, you have like 20 something cells. Plant cells have something cool thing called a chloroplast. These things basically came from cyanobacteria that got eaten by the plant cells. Plant cells have cell walls even. They're like supposed to be strong, rigid. But our cell walls are like flexible-ish. They have basically all the same things we have. And then basically, there is also a difference between bacteria and animal cells. You can see how simple that cell is, that bacteria cell. It doesn't seem like it's really simple. The DNA is everywhere, like keeping all your spices everywhere in your house, even on your bed and your kitchen. Very, very bad. Are you curious? But us eukaryotes, we do have a lot of parts that we use for things, etc. Thanks for watching. These are basically all the things everything from all the things that we got our resources from. And this is the final comment. I said hi. Meanwhile, right now, at this moment, on Mars, this is how bad it is. Chancellor Denococcus Radius says, "We will wage war on humankind," and he has this weird weapon that he's going to use to attack us. And the king, well, I'm just saying, and our guy says, "Yeah, since the Rovers are gone, we will attack." And the other one's like, and then the other troops, "Yes, we will attack tomorrow." And then tomorrow they're going to attack. We need to prepare. We're also going to obliterate us. They have a strong force, around 300 million. Thank you for watching our presentation.